questions or comments on any of these resolutions?
Does this also include 4?
Yes. 1531, 1532, and 1533. So it's the resolution authorizing requests for proposals, the resolution for extraordinary and specified service, which even though that terminology is uncomfortable, that's required legal language. And then the final one is the professional services agreement with Dakotas.
I'll move them.
Moved by Ms. Butler and seconded by Ms. Howard. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All 3 resolutions pass unanimously. Thank you. Okay, and now we'll go back up to our ordinances. We have 2 public hearings for tonight. The first is an ordinance creating a no stopping or standing zone on a portion of Little Brook Road North and Magnolia Lane and amending the code of the Township of Princeton, New Jersey, 1968. And this ordinance is to help with safety for the school children who are active at that corner before school and after when school lets out. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Oh, actually, wait, I'm sorry, I have to open the public hearing.
Yeah.
But seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. And now is there a motion?
So moved.
It's moved by Ms. Butler and seconded by Ms. Howard. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Howard? Yes. Ms. Crum-Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Miller is absent. Mr. Liverman is absent. Ms. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Simon?
Yes.
And motion carries.
Okay, so the ordinance passes unanimously. Next is an ordinance by Princeton authorizing the acceptance of a deed of conservation easement for Block 2802, Lot 1.01, Princeton tax map. And this was really a cleanup ordinance to put on the books an easement with the Goldman Sachs property. And I'd like to open up the public hearing. And seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Are there any questions or comments from council, or is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
It's moved by Ms. Butler and seconded by Ms. Crum-Miller. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Howard? Yes. Ms. Crum-Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Miller is absent. Mr. Liverman is absent. Ms. Ms. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Simon?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay.
I have to recuse the next one because I live right next to Cleveland Lane.
Okay. Next we have 2 ordinance introductions. The first is an ordinance by Princeton regulating parking along portions of Cleveland Lane and amending the code of the Borough of Princeton, New Jersey, 1974. Mr. Kaiser, do you want to tell us about this ordinance?
Yes, thank you very much. This is a housekeeping matter. Deanna Stockton and Sergeant Murray had gotten together and reviewed this particular stretch and determined that some things need to be cleaned up in order for the proper parking enforcement to take place along this roadway.
Okay, thanks. Is there a motion to introduce the ordinance?
Well, I have a question. Are we in the same pickle? Can 3 of us introduce the ordinance?
I think with the mayor we have a quorum.
Okay, as long as, all right.
But I don't need to vote, right?
No.
You would need to
Oh, okay. I love to vote, especially when it's harmonious. So moved.
So I'll move it, or Heather, did you move it?
Okay, so it's moved by Ms. Howard and seconded by Ms. Butler. And Madam Clerk, please read the roll.
Ms. Howard?
Yes.
Ms. Crum-Miller? She recused, I'm sorry. Mr. Miller is absent. Mr. Liverman is absent. Ms. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Simon?
Yes.
And motion carries.
I think I need to vote too, though.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. And Mayor Limpert?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Somehow I don't think you vote. But
I don't need to. All right.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just here. All right.
Yeah.
I got carried away.
Motion carries.
It's safer to have your vote on the record in case you do need it. If you don't, it's not going to affect it either way.
Okay. The next ordinance introduction is an ordinance by Princeton appropriating the sum of $600,000 from the Princeton Open Space Trust Fund and authorizing the acquisition of Block 15.02, Lots 71 and 72, Princeton tax map pursuant to the provisions of the New Jersey Local Land and Buildings Law, NJSA 40A12-1, et sec. Are there any questions on this ordinance or comments?
I'll move it. Well, I do have a question. So the county is going to pay,
The county has pledged half the amount of the purchase price, so not necessarily $300,000. It just depends on what the appraisals come in at. And the first step, I believe that the appraisals still haven't come in, so we don't know exactly, but they're underway, and we should get that information soon.
and is the seller has agreed to, we'll sell them at the appraised price, is that correct?
I believe so.
Good to go on that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
We anticipate receiving appraisals for the $575,000 price, but we won't know until those appraisals are actually in.
Okay. Thank you.
Howard, did you introduce this ordinance already?
No, but I will move it now.
Okay. Is there a second? And
Second.
seconded by Ms. Butler. And Madam Clerk, please read the roll.
Ms. Howard?
Yes.
Ms. Crum-Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Miller is absent. Mr. Liverman is absent. Ms. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Simon?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And the public hearings for both of the ordinances we just introduced tonight, the Cleveland Lane ordinance and the Lytle Street property, will be on March 9th, the meeting of March 9th. Next, we move on to resolutions. The first is 1530, transfer of funds for $146,000. This, again, was a house cleaning item, but are there any housekeeping items? Are there any questions? Or is there a motion to approve?
Just a quick question for Ms. Manzo. This is the first time we've done one of these after the year has ended, I think. But this is allowed under state law, correct?
It's a transfer that's done on the appropriation reserve, which is the budget from last year. So it's not affecting this year's budget, it's last year's budget, and these are bills that come in after we close out last year, but they come in this year that we put against the appropriation reserve budget.
And so as long as council approves it, we can make these transfers.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Is there a motion? So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Howard, seconded by Mr. Simon. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The resolution passes unanimously. Now we skip down to 15-34, PCH Development Corporation, Affordable Housing Administrative Agent, for an annual fee of $27,780. Are there any questions, or is there a motion to approve? So moved. Moved by Ms. Howard. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Simon. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The resolution passes unanimously. Next is 15-35, resolution for a professional services agreement, Zoning Board of Adjustment Attorney, Karen L. Casey, Esquire, not to exceed $20,000. Are there any questions, or is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Simon and seconded by Ms. Crum-Miller. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The resolution passes unanimously. We are going to hold the next resolution until our next meeting, and so we will skip to 15-37. And actually, we're going to skip this one too, because both Ms. Howard and I plan to recuse, and we have a quorum issue tonight, so we'll hold that till the next.
Isn't that the only one we're skipping?
No, we're also skipping the Ira Whitman PSA. It might have been already
It's pulled from the copy
Yes.
I have. Okay, got it.
And now we move to our fairly extensive consent agenda. Again, this is what happens when you don't meet for a month. And And consent agenda contains items of a routine nature that are passed by single vote. And before I ask for a motion, are there any items that anybody would like removed from the consent agenda?
I'm not going to, no.
And if not, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Krummeller. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Simon. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Consent agenda passes unanimously. And is there a motion to move into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Simon, seconded by Ms. Krummeller. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Be it resolved by the Mayor and Council of Princeton, this body will now convene into a closed session that will be limited only to consideration of an item or items with respect to which the public may be excluded pursuant to Section 7B of the Open Public Meetings Act. The general nature of the subject or subjects to be discussed in said session is as follows. Personnel and potential affordable housing acquisitions, Peck Place, Mount Lucas property, and a personal update. Stated as precisely as presently possible, the following are the time when and the circumstances under which the discussion conducted at said session can be disclosed to the public within 90 days or upon settlement of litigation if applicable.
I think it's just burnt.